Good morning and a Happy New Year from a sunny Zambia on this 2nd of January 2022. I'm just going to take a walk to the shops just outside to see if I can get some credit, some talk time, or rather some time so I can go on the internet properly. The internet here sort of comes and goes, which is a little bit awkward sometimes. We're hoping to link into Erdington in a little while. We know the gifts the wise men brought were of considerable value: gold, frankincense and myrrh. Wow. I suppose at the beginning of this year, one question we could ask ourselves is, what are we going to bring to Jesus? So I may not have gold, I may not have frankincense or myrrh, but what can I bring? What can I bring to Jesus? There's all those hymns, isn't there? If I was... I guess, as we've experienced the last couple of years, there's so much uncertainty, isn't there? Certainly, the idea of between Christmas and New Year, planning holidays and working out, we just have not got that certainty at this particular stage in the world's history. And I'm mindful of the readings for today, the readings for this sort of time, of the wise men coming from a distance to greet the baby Jesus. I'm also mindful of those readings, and it stayed with me from Luke. It was due to be read last Sunday. The story about Jesus going and being found in the temple by his parents, a couple of very worried parents who searched for him for 3 days and eventually found him in a temple. And Jesus said to them, why are you worrying? Did you not know that I'd be in my Father's house? Words of a young child, 12-year-old. But I guess that's what's important, is that wherever we are at this time of uncertainty, we keep rooted in our Father's house. Not so much a building. Wow, the building in Jerusalem, well, it took a long time to build. It was 46 years and it was still under construction, I understand. But it wasn't that Jesus was talking about, I don't think. Do you? I think he was talking about being in a place where he was in communion with God. And I guess that's the message for us at the beginning of 2022. That story of the wise men or the astrologers, it's very powerful, isn't it? Bringing gifts, outsiders, nothing to do with the institution of Judaism, people from outside, people from a different faith maybe, or no faith, but people who travelled and journeyed with uncertainty in one sense, except only just keeping their eye fixed on the stars. And those same guys, well, maybe women too, I don't know, bringing out of generosity to a little baby, bringing precious things. In any culture, gold's precious. Well, that's why it's used for crowns for kings and has been. That's why it's worth a lot of money. But then there's the frankincense and the myrrh, both with their own interpretations, both precious, both linked into significant things. And they gave them. Of course, that leads a question for us at the beginning of this year, doesn't it? What do we bring to Jesus? Yes, we could put our offering in the plate, and I encourage you very much to continue to give to the church. You know it's not been easy times, and if we're going to maintain our ministry and mission in Sutton Park Circuit, we are just so thankful for your giving. please continue. But in one sense, the money we give to the church is only part, isn't it? For it's what we bring to Jesus. Thinking about that story, it just shows the best of humanity and the worst. Outsiders, unknown people, making a journey with an intention, coming and showing their love, showing their worship. But then there's the other side, isn't it? Epitomized in Herod, which shows jealousy, envy, the need to cling on to one's power at all costs. I suppose we can ask ourselves this morning, are we wanting to be like the wise men, or are we going to be like Herod? Are we going to be people who are so concerned that we hang on to what we've got? And yet, that's what COVID's taught us, isn't it? We can no longer have the certainty. We can no longer now confidently book our holidays knowing that we're going to be travelling. We hope that we do, and we need to hang on to that hope. But at the same time, we need to face the reality of uncertainty. And that seems to be so much epitomized with those wise men. Facing uncertainty, being open to listen to what God is saying. And we hear in that story that, of course, they did listen, and having gone to the powerful authorities in the first place and told them and alerted Herod, they then avoided seeing him because they remained open by listening to God in a dream to depart, avoiding going back to Herod. But in that story, in Matthew chapter 2, that is not the only dream. The other dream is given to Joseph. And Joseph hears that he must flee. And so we hear about Mary and Joseph and Jesus becoming refugees. And of course that is very true and very poignant. And even as we're sitting and pondering today, there are people who are refugees who need to be fleeing. We know movements will always happen around the world. We know that there's always going to be uncertainty. And right at the beginning of the gospel, that is there. But then, coming back to that other reading that I can't get out of my mind, the reading about Jesus going into that magnificent temple, that place of certainty. But he wasn't talking about being in his Father's house in that way. He was talking about being in the presence of God. And amidst our uncertainty, and I hope we have the possibility of making plans and things, but amidst that uncertainty, let us never forget that we too can be in our Father's house. When we spend time reading his word, when we spend time praying, when we spend those moments just celebrating, and when we find ourselves doing as those wise men did, those astrologers, and bringing, because we can do nothing else, when we show love to others, we're reflecting that incessant, relentless love that God has for us. In our uncertainty, as well as in our certainties, may we be people of love. Amen.